Alright everyone, so here's another series of videos on pretty much setting up your Multiwii for your Graviton that you may have purchased from us. Now, we already covered in the previous video how to calibrate your accelerometer as well as make pretty much your unit either more aggressive or less aggressive by adjusting the rate mode in your flight controller. So what we're going to cover today is actually something that you guys are going to find very useful, especially for you guys out there that already have a different radio, whether it's a Spectrum, Futaba, JR, Airtronics, or High-Tech. The same, or Wakira as well, I forgot about that one, but the same rule will apply for any of those radios. So you're going to notice in this video, I'm obviously not showing all those radios, but it's the same exact concept all the way through. So the first thing we want to do is have our Multiwii software here pretty much ready to open, but not opened yet. The reason, if you watch my earlier video, I show you how you want to have the FTDI adapter before you actually open the software, so it recognizes the COM port. So what I got here is obviously an unmounted setup just for video purposes because it makes it a lot easier. Like I said, don't mind the receiver. The same rule is going to apply whether you have Spectrum, Futaba, you know, any one of those receivers. So you may notice from here, let me unplug this. You may notice from the flight controller to the receiver, let me quickly get this undone. Okay, here we go. You're going to have pretty much what it is. It's two extensions, or three extensions really, if you look at it. But you have one 3-pin one here, another 3-pin one here, and then your last one that just has a black wire, which is this guy right here. So your first set, you're going to notice all the wires are still together. You know, this is your first one. Your second one, you're going to notice on the end, all the wires are split. You can see here. So the very first one, obviously the board, that's the little arrow I mentioned in the other video, that's facing away from us. So the very first 3-pin one, which is here, is going to be our throttle. So this is our throttle. I'm not going to plug it in yet just so you can kind of see it, but obviously the way the pins line up, if you pay very close attention, it's black, red, white. So this first set of them, the red and the black are actually giving power to it, so you don't want to get those mixed up. Obviously make sure on your receiver you know what's power, what's ground. Your signal is obviously kind of just a ground, so that one isn't too big of a deal, but if you don't have it plugged in correctly, you're not going to get a signal. So the second set of wires or connector is obviously lined up the same, black, red, and white. Now the red and the black, or the red, is not a power. They just used here a servo extension to pretty much make signals out of it. So when you look at the ends, you're going to notice each and every one of them is plugged into its own connector. So I can disconnect one, and you can see there, it's a 3-pin connector, but there's only 1 pin in there. So the black one is your aileron, the red one is your elevator, the white one is your rudder, and the one that's all by itself here, the black one, that is your aux5 or gear channel. So that's used to change flight modes. Obviously, if you don't want to change flight modes between stability and agility, then this wouldn't matter. You can actually leave that off and only have 4 pins. So that's pretty much here the hookup of it. Remember, the aileron, elevator, and rudder, and also the channel 5, those are all going to be plugged into the signal side. That's why you see them all on the right side, because on this receiver, signal's on the very right. The only one carrying power is this guy, where they're not split, which is the first set of them here, and that's a channel 3. So I'm going to plug that in correctly, signal that way. Okay, there we go. So that's plugged in. So now you have it plugged in, what we want to do, remember, plug your USB in, You're going to see the red light as mentioned in the previous video. If you guys haven't watched my other video, I'd recommend it because I may be referencing back and a lot of you guys may be saying, what is he talking about? So that's what we're talking about. You want to connect this before you open the software. Once you have a solid red light here, you're ready to go. Obviously, before we do any of this, we want to make sure we have the software and the drivers installed as well. If not, you're not going to get very far. So for these next step, I may not be going in detail on what exactly I'm doing. That's why I really recommend you guys watch my other video so you don't get lost. So I'm gonna take my mouse up and I'm gonna connect it. Or not connect it, but open the folder. As mentioned in the other video, you're gonna see here the slab UB UART. If you're using a Windows computer, you're gonna see it come up as a COM port 9, I believe. But like I said, whatever COM port you choose when installing a driver, that's the one you want to open. So with the board facing away from you, the FTDI pins are these guys here on this side. You can see them there. So we want to connect, there is a wrong and right way of connecting this. So we don't want to connect it with the light facing towards the center of the board. We want to connect it with the lights facing away from the board. So you can see red light towards it, red light away from it. So you line it up with 6 pins here. It doesn't matter if you get it off by 1. I've done it and nothing happened, so don't worry about that. But try to not mix it up with the top yellow pins here. So we're going to connect it with the red light facing away. So here we go. You're going to see a solid yellow light, and you're going to see a blue light there. Do its little flickering, and that's pretty much saying you're ready to use it here. So what we can do now is turn on our radio. Like I said, guys, don't pay attention really to the radio or the receiver. The same rule is going to apply to any brand of radio out there. Obviously being an RC radio. But okay, we got that done. And then we come over here, check our receiver, make sure we have a solid bind, which we do, indicated by a solid green light. If it's not bound, depending on what radio you have, you want to follow the instructions in the manual to bind your radio properly. But in my case, I got it bound, so I'm good to go. Next thing we want to do is we want to actually connect the board. Let me zoom in a little bit here. We want to connect the board to the computer. So what we're going to want to do, in my case, I have a Mac, so I'm going to connect slab UB UART. I'm going to press that. When I press that, you're going to see a lot of stuff go green. So the COM port went green, these went green, but I'm still not getting anything. So the next thing we got to do is press start. So there's a button right here. This is start. So we click start, and then you're going to see everything go green. You can see there. You know, we got the artificial horizon little thing over here. You can see I'm rolling it. I'm doing everything, and all the arrows and everything's moving accordingly, as well as here. So we really don't need to worry about any of that. We don't need to worry about this. We don't need to worry about all these numbers moving, this graph moving. You know, your board's not going to die on you, you know, if you've seen all these weird graphs, but don't worry about that. All we're going to care about in this video, and I'm going to zoom into it here in a little bit. I'm going to set the board aside right for now, obviously leaving it connected, but all we care about is this box here. That's the only box we care about. So let me zoom into there. Alrighty guys, so here's the rocket science. No, I'm just kidding. It's actually really straightforward. What we're trying to do here, just so you get an idea of what's happening before I go into detail, what we want to do, we want to tell the flight controller, or pretty much we want to mate the radio inputs with the software. So in other words, when we go right here, we want to make sure that the flight controller is receiving that as a right input, not as a left, because then it won't be too good as far as your first flight. So there's a few things you want to make sure. There's numbers you're seeing here. Those I'll explain in a little bit. So what we're going to care about is the numbers, the value we see, as well as the direction it's moving, and obviously making sure the right control is responding. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. So the first thing we're going to set is aileron or roll, however you want to think of it, word it. The software knows it as roll. I'm an airplane guy. I come from airplanes and helicopters, so I know it as aileron. But like I said, it really doesn't matter as long as you understand what's what. So aileron slash roll is this guy here. So obviously moving that side to side, that's our aileron roll. So what we care about, let me try and get them both here in the shot. So roll is the third one down. What we can see here, when I move right, we want that to move right. You may notice and you may be saying, well, wait, it's not going all the way. That's fine. We really don't want it to go all the way. You'll see right now how we adjust those values. But what really matters right now is that I don't want to move roll and throttle be moving. Obviously, that means I hooked it up wrong in the receiver and I'd have to go back and find where I hooked it up wrong. So if I move roll to the right, I want roll here to move to the right. If it's moving to the left, that means I need to reverse it in my radio. So you'd go inside your radio and you'd reverse that channel. So in my case, roll is correct. And what I'm going to do next, I'm going to move to pitch or elevator. Now this one might be a little bit tricky, so you may have to think about it for a little bit and see actually what's happening. So I'm going to move pitch. I want to make sure pitch is moving and not any other channel. If any other channel moves, go back to your receiver and check on where you may have hooked it up wrong. So when I move pitch back, I want pitch on the slider, it's the second one here, to move back as well, or to the left. You can see I'm going to pull back, it's coming down, I'm going to go forward, it's going to go up. So that is correct. If that is not moving the right direction, once again, go back to your radio and reverse that channel. The next thing we're going to worry about is rudder here, or yaw. So when I yaw it, yaw is the fourth one down right here. When I yaw right, this slider needs to move to the right. So I'm going to yaw right, right, yaw left, left. Lastly, what we're going to worry about is throttle. This one's kind of important. Last thing we want is you arming your unit and it taking off full throttle. Excuse me. But with throttle being the very first one, we want down to be down. So down is going to be all the way to the left here. You see the blue all the way to the left. So when I go up, it's going to increase. There, it's going to decrease. So that tells me we're good. The last thing we're going to worry about is our channel 5 or channel 5, aux 1 or gear. But if you did hook that up, once again, that's for your flight modes. The Gravitrons, if you purchase the Ready to Fly combo from us, they all leave in self-leveling mode. So whenever you let go of the stick, it's going to self-level. Even though channel 5 is hooked up, it's not doing anything because we ship it out with, like I said, angle mode in both positions. So here towards the end of the video, I'll show you guys how to hook that up and how to maybe modify that if later you do want to do so. But for now, we're going to worry about the next thing. So we already covered on our stick movement and our stick input, making sure the right channel is responding to the right input, as well as making sure the right input is responding to, in this case, if I move roll, I want roll to move. If I move pitch, I want pitch to move, and not, any other channel. The next thing we're going to worry about is the values. So for the values, I'm not going to show the radio, but I'm going to zoom in more here on the values themselves. Alrighty, so starting with throttle, being the top channel. When my stick is all the way down, I want the value to be about 980, 970, what you're seeing here. If you're not able to get it exactly where I have it, get it as close as you can. That's all that really matters. So what we're doing now is we're telling the radio what endpoints are going to match up with the flight controller. So if that value was actually a little bit lower, you may not be able to engage your motors in this case, or arm them. So the way you adjust that, let's say, obviously my radio is not a computerized radio here, so I don't have a sub-trim menu, I only have my trims. But I'm going to show you an example of how you don't want it to look. So right now, I'm going to move the throttle. So you can see right now the value is at 909. At that point, the unit would probably not arm. Even if it was higher or lower, it probably won't arm, and you probably would have a headache. So if you have a computerized radio, you want to go in your sub trim and adjust that accordingly. If you're like me and you don't have a computerized radio, you want to move your trim tabs. Okay, there we go. 960, 970-ish is a good enough mark. When I go full throttle, I want it to be about 2000, as you can see there. Now, typically if you don't have a computerized radio, that value should be just about right. If you do have a computerized radio, the way you adjust that would be your endpoint. So you'd move your endpoint to make sure you reach that value. So moving on to the next one, we're pretty much going to be doing the same thing for pitch, roll, and yaw. I'm only going to explain pitch because the same rule is going to apply to roll and yaw here in the next step. So right now we're not moving pitch. It's perfectly centered. When it's centered, we want this value to be about 1490 to 1500. So 1490 is good. I'll show you here how it looks with 1500. You know, 1500 is great, but have it hovering somewhere around there for your centering. If when your stick is centered, the value is not there, and you have a computerized radio, you're going to go into the sub trim menu and you're going to adjust it for pitch in this case. If you don't have a computerized radio like I do, what you're going to do, you're actually going to adjust your trims to that value is about 1490, 1500-ish. Like I said, it doesn't need to be exact, so just get it as close as you can. The next thing we're going to check out is the endpoints. Since this radio is not computerized, the endpoints are going to be pretty set on both directions. If you have a computerized radio and you're noticing the endpoints are not set, you want to go back and adjust the endpoint adjustment for either the high or the low. The first we're going to check is the high side. So when I go full forward stick, I want the value to be about 2000. 1900s to about 2000 is a good spot we want to be at when we go full stick. When I go all the way down, I want it to be about 920-ish. Right around there. A little bit more, a little bit less, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. But just get it in this ballpark. If you, if you're a few digits a little bit over, maybe like 930, you should still be fine. I wouldn't worry about it, but just try to get it. You want your low side to be about 920, 930s-ish. Your high sides to be about 1900s to 2000s. I'm going to show you here for roll. Here you can see it's a lower 1900, but that's perfectly fine. I'm going to go here. Here it's a 970. So all we want to do is make sure those values, we're pretty much teaching, we're pairing the radio with the flight controller. So they're both reading the same endpoints and they're communicating properly. But that's pretty much all you want to do. Like I said, the same rule will apply for roll and yaw. For aux1 or gear channel, I've never had a radio where I have to adjust that endpoint. Typically, since it's on a switch, it works great all the time. You can see there, that's about the 2000s, the high one, and that's about the 930s. If you wanted to reverse that, you can reverse it where if high is up, up is down, or down is up. You know, it doesn't matter. This one here, the direction really doesn't matter. The way I like to set it is here, let me zoom out a little bit. With the switch all the way down away from me, I like this value to be on the low side. When it's up, I like it to be on the high side. So right now what I'm going to cover is the aux5 or gear channel. This is the flight mode switch. Now, this is a switch that if you bought the unit from us, they all ship out in self-leveling mode. So even if you move the switch, it is connected, as you can see here. It is responding, but nothing's going to happen. And I'm going to show you that in a little bit as in why that's actually happening. But the reason we do that is we don't want people to accidentally hit it and all of a sudden be in rate mode or aerobatic mode, and the unit, it flies actually really nice in that mode. But till you get familiar with the unit, we don't recommend going into that mode. But I already covered in the other video how you kind of do that. I'm going to kind of cover it again in this video, showing you how that works. So what we care about here, let me get my camera set up. What we really care about is the second look here that says angle. Now you're going to see it's aux 1 and it says low, medium, and high. As you can see, I have all the boxes checked out in white. So I'm going to uncheck them here just to give you an idea of how they looked. Unchecked, so uncheck, uncheck. As soon as I uncheck the last one, you're going to see that, let's see, the angle mode is no longer going to be enabled. So I can be hitting this switch all day and nothing is absolutely going to happen. The reason for that is because angle mode is now disabled. So if that's what I wanted, I would press right here. You can see I press right, and now you can see angle mode is disabled. So I can flick the switch any position, it's no longer going to be angle mode. Now if I wanted angle mode to be on one side of the switch, what I would do, since this is only 2-position switch, only the 2 outer boxes are absolutely going to do anything. The center one won't do anything. So I would check it and then I'd come down and press right. Now that I pressed right, that position here is angle mode. That position all the way up is your rate mode or your non-self-leveling mode. You can also see the box is no longer lit up green. So angle mode, not angle mode, angle mode, not angle mode. If you wanted to switch that to be either the opposite, you can reverse it, or you can uncheck that one, check that one, and then, you know, like that. If you want both your modes to be self-leveling mode or angle mode, what you would do, this is how the Graviton ships. You check it, press right, there we go, and now you can see no matter what position I go to, angle mode is enabled. So typically for a 2-position switch, I like to enable all 3 of them, just because in the transition sometimes you'll get a little dead spot. You actually won't notice it when flying, but it's you know, you may notice it a little bit. If you're hooking up your aux 5 to a 3-position switch, you use the same idea, and pretty much you just tell the flight controller what position you want angle mode or rate mode to be enabled. Let me zoom out here, but that pretty much covers everything, guys. I mean, I don't think I left anything out. I know a lot of guys were waiting for a video like this to be put up, because a lot of you guys want to hook up your either Futaba radio, your Spectrum, High-Tech, Airtronics, what other radios am I missing? JR, Gropner, Jetty. I'm just having fun here going through all the radios. What else is there? Man, I think that's about it. And I mean, there's, oh, Wakira. I always forget Wakira. I don't know why. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. And you know, a lot of guys wanted to know how to hook it up to any of those radios. Like I said, if you follow this video step by step, the same rule applies to any video. The flight controller itself doesn't know brands. It doesn't know radios. All it knows is an input, in what direction it's moving, maximum endpoint, and so on and so forth. So radio brand does not matter at all. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, you can post them in the comments below. The fastest way to get a response from us is emailing us, dronepros@gmail.com. Once again, that's dronepros@gmail.com. If you, like I said, if you got any questions, send us an email. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions. As always, thanks for watching, guys. Till next time.